finally here with this video I meant to post like 2 months ago. Anyway, this is my Thor 4 review. Sorry it's so late. I kind of didn't have the time or motivation to post when it came out, even though I was planning on it. And then after that, I wanted to wait until it came out on Disney Plus so I could watch it again and have it fresh on my memory. I did watch it last night again, so I've seen it twice now, and I just wanted to share my thoughts on the movie with you guys. So, as always, format of this video, quick non-spoiler review, reacting to my predictions, and then going through any other details I feel like I want to review or add about my thoughts and opinions on the film. So first, the non-spoiler review of Thor 4, or Thor Love and Thunder. I really enjoyed it. I don't think it was quite as good as Ragnarok, but I think it was still really good. It was really funny. Just felt kind of silly at times though, so I think that's maybe the main reason why it isn't quite up there as high as Ragnarok, but it was a really enjoyable film. And also, I honestly think I liked it better the second time. I just really enjoyed watching it again last night. But yeah, it's got a lot of enjoyable, funny moments, good action, and honestly, that's what you want in a Marvel film, so it was great. I liked it. That is the end of my non-spoiler review, so here is the spoiler warning. If you still haven't gotten around to seeing Thor 4 yet, and you don't want spoilers, then stop now and come back after you've seen the film. Now let's start off the bulk of my video with the reactions to my predictions. So just before the movie came out, I think I actually filmed it the day that I was going to see it, so like the day it came out. I filmed a video with 10 predictions. Definitely check that out in the cards. They're over there, right? Yeah, in my last video, I pointed to the wrong spot, my bad. But yeah, check that video out, it's linked in the cards. But now, real quick, I am going to react to my predictions and score how well I did out of 10. So my first prediction was answering the question of who is Gorr gonna be going after in the film? And I said that he would start by going after Star-Lord and then go after Zeus, and both of those were wrong. Like, he didn't even go after Zeus, other than like going to Eternity to kill all the gods, but he didn't even go after Zeus specifically. It was Thor that went to Zeus for help. Obviously didn't get that. But then my guess about him going after Star-Lord instead of Thor was totally off base too. I was thinking that Gorr's motivation would be slightly different than what it was in the comics, and that he was on this whole mission of killing all the gods because of Thanos, who, I mean, isn't technically a god, but is an Eternal, which work under the Celestials, which are kind of gods, and then Star-Lord is half celestial, and so that's why I thought he'd be going after Star-Lord instead, but he didn't, because his motivation was actually just the same as the comics. It was his own local god that disappointed him, and so he turned his back on all the gods and tried to, you know, kill them. My second prediction was about how much will the Guardians of the Galaxy actually be in the film. I said, so first of all, I thought that they were gonna go to Sakaar. I thought that the planet that it's actually, I think, Indigar, that you see in the trailers, the one that Thor and the Guardians are at the beginning of the movie, I thought that was Sakaar just because of similar backgrounds, I guess, but I didn't actually. I should have taken a closer look, because I think maybe if I did, I wouldn't have thought that. I don't know, who knows? But anyway, my answer was that they were gonna go to Sakaar, and then after they leave, you wouldn't see the Guardians again. If I just replace the word Sakaar with Indigar, then, I mean, that's right. I mean, they started out the film at Indigar, so they didn't go there. So, I mean, in the end, I'm kind of like half right on that one, so I think I'm gonna give myself a half point, because, like I said, they would go to Sakaar and then part ways, and then we wouldn't see the Guardians again, whereas what happened was they started on Indigar, not Sakaar, and then parted ways, and we didn't see them again. So, like, the main idea of my prediction was right, but there were parts that it was built on that were wrong, so I think I'm gonna go with a half point there. So right now I'm at just a half point. My third question, why do they go to Sakaar, was not even a good question anyway, because they don't. So that one I'm not getting a point for, and that's part of why I'm okay giving myself a half point for the last one, because I don't get a point here. My fourth prediction was about how would Jane get her powers. I said that she doesn't actually have powers of her own, it's just Mjolnir giving her those powers, and that was correct, so I've got a point now. More than half a point. My fifth prediction asked the question of how is Jane actually worthy and able to wield Mjolnir? And I went totally off base on this one, saying that she doesn't actually have to be because that doesn't apply anymore. Well, it turns out it does apply. As you can see in the film, the pieces of Mjolnir are totally immovable. They're like covered in glass, but they're still right there where they were when Hela destroyed Mjolnir, and people haven't been able to move them. So obviously that implies that you have to to even be worthy to pick up the pieces of Mjolnir. So anyway, that means that Jane has to be worthy, and so how was she? Because I said my prediction was that she wasn't and didn't have to be. So how was she? And the movie kind of explained it that, like, I mean, she would have always been worthy because she is the one who helped make Thor worthy in the first movie, which kind of makes sense because it was her outlook and motivations that helped Thor let go of his ego in the first Thor movie and actually become worthy again. So I understand that. But also, I think upon watching the film, especially the second time, it really helped me understand that also, like, Mjolnir and Stormbreaker are sentient. And so I think there's a lot more that goes into it than simply some nebulous idea of someone being worthy enough to hold Mjolnir. And that would be why, like, Hela obviously doesn't feel worthy the same way that, like, Thor and Jane feel worthy, but she was able to hold Mjolnir in Ragnarok. So I think the fact that Hela had previously wielded Mjolnir might have played into that being able to happen. And so I think, like, the sentience of Mjolnir also kind of plays into it, and the fact that we see in the film that Thor asked Mjolnir to always protect Jane, and so I think that also helped play into her being able to wield Mjolnir. My sixth prediction was based on a simple yes or no answer. Will Thor be able to wield Mjolnir in the film? And yes, he did. During the film, like, the main plot of the film itself, there's just the part where he, like, picks up Mjolnir to make sure he's still worthy. I'd have to double check again. I wasn't paying attention to this when I was watching yesterday. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we really saw him wield Mjolnir in any of the fight scenes against Gore or even, like, Zeus. But at the very end, with the scene of him and Love going out to help protect some people, he wields Mjolnir and she wields Stormbreaker, which is a kind of fun juxtaposition because Stormbreaker's legitimately, like, this size that she is, and then Thor is bigger and has the smaller weapon. Honestly, then that raises the question of, like, is he only gonna use Mjolnir from here on out? I like Stormbreaker better, so that would disappoint me. I think that scene isn't indicating that. I think that it was just kind of giving us that chance as the audience to be able to see him wield Mjolnir again. Because, like I said in my last video, how could they not? Like, how could they not have Thor wield Mjolnir in this film? My seventh prediction was answering the question, will there be a romantic subplot between Jane and Thor? And I guess I added a second part to that question, will they get back together? And yes and yes. I mean, the second part, obviously, it didn't last very long, but it definitely feels like they got back together. She just died, so it didn't last very long. My eighth prediction was about who is that blue-haired girl from the trailer, and my answer was no one, which was correct. She was just in, like, a flashback of the opening narration of the film. My ninth prediction was answering the question, will Jane die? I said no. Sadly, I was wrong. But she did go to Valhalla, so I guess that's kind of nice. I don't know what they're gonna do with that. I mean, she died, but there's still potential to use her character. And then my 10th prediction was asking the question, will there be a connection to Loki? And I said no, just because in real world, the timing's not quite right. And then, like, in world, like, the plot of Thor doesn't really connect to the plot of Loki. So between those two reasons, I said no. I think that's right, at least as far as I could tell watching the film twice. I don't think that there are any connections or references to it. And by connections to Loki, I mean, like, the TV show, not just the character. Obviously, we see the fake actor Loki again, which is great, and flashbacks of Loki dying again and all of that. But I mean, to the TV show, I didn't see any connections. Let me know if I am wrong, because I would love to know that. Anyway, so in the end, I got 5.5 right of my predictions out of 10, a little bit above 50%. That's always my goal, is to get at least half. So not too bad, not my best ever either, though. So now that I've reacted to all of my predictions and talked through a few of the things about the film, I guess I didn't react as much about, like, whether I liked them or not. Let's move into the review portion where I actually say what I liked and didn't like about the film. Like I mentioned in my non-spoiler review at the beginning, I did really enjoy the film, but I don't think it's quite as good as Ragnarok for two reasons. I think, like, between the two films, if I had to choose one, I'd probably choose to rewatch Ragnarok, but, like, the two specific reasons reasons that I can now mention, because I'm saying spoilers, that I think that I'd prefer watching Ragnarok over Love and Thunder is because, one, I think Hela's a better villain than Gore. I mean, I still enjoy Gore as a villain as well, but I think I like Hela better, so I think that's one of the main reasons. And then two is because Ragnarok, the comedy was just always on point and perfect, and this one, like, the comedy was great, but I feel like sometimes it did take it a little bit too far. Not in like a bad way that it made it a terrible film, but just to the point where there were times where it felt silly or like it wasn't taking itself seriously. And so like in that way, like maybe there was a little bit too much of that silly comedy that I just enjoyed it a little bit less in Love and Thunder than in Ragnarok. Although I guess there are some of the silly parts that were hilarious. Like, I remember in theaters, it was so funny when Thor just rips Stormbreaker out of the ground, gets on Stormbreaker like a freaking witch's broom, disappears, and then you see him flying in the background like a witch. That was hilarious. That's like, it was silly but good at the same time. So that one's a good one. One of the silly ones I'm thinking about as well is like Valkyrie's hand grenade, and then but it's a speaker or whatever. That one felt really silly the first time, but I enjoyed the joke more the second time, because I think maybe part of that is why I liked the second time better, was because I just knew going into it that it was a little bit silly, and so the comedy just like hit better, I guess. But anyway, yeah, that's the main thing. There were lots of good funny moments, there were lots of silly funny moments, and it was enjoyable overall, but maybe less serious of an MCU film. Now let's talk a little bit about the characters and the character development in the film. I thought was really good in general, like most all of the characters, I think. So first off, Thor, great development where we see where he's at the beginning of the film, cutting himself off because of all the pain he's endured in the last, I don't know what, like 15 years, even though that's such a small portion of his life, but whatever. And developing throughout the film to make that love his, you know, primary motivator and not being cut off from love again. That was good. I liked that. Similarly, Gore has a similar character arc, which is pretty great. At the beginning, he's lost everything, and so he goes on the rampage to kill all the gods. And I love at the end, actually, when he's at Eternity and Thor has gone through this development, perfect timing, right? Where he's like, I'm not gonna spend my last moments with you, I'm gonna spend it with her. And he's like, make your wish. You can bring your daughter back, or you can just kill all the gods and, you know, cause all this pain for everyone else. And Gore makes that decision to bring his daughter back instead. I loved that. That was a really great ending to the film. Showing a more human side of these villains is always great, and so I really enjoyed that. Jane's character was also great. I guess she didn't have as much, like, growth, because at the end she ends up dying from, you know, pushing herself so much that the cancer kills her, and at the beginning that's what she was doing as well, but she does it with a very valid reason of saving, you know, these kids, as well as potentially saving all of the gods and potentially a lot of people just in general, with like a very altruistic motivation. Also, King Valkyrie, I just love her character. I don't know exactly what specifically to say about it. I enjoy her personality, her interactions with Thor and Jane, and just all of it. She's the best. Honestly, she's one of my favorite MCU characters, probably. And Korg, oh my gosh, I was worried for a second that he actually died, and then we find out that the only part of a Cronin that's alive is their mouth, so he's just a head now, or not even a head, a face. But honestly, I love Korg all the time, like his comments, and then also like his narration, like there's the different separate parts of the film where he's re-narrating a story, and I thought that was a really fun and enjoyable way to kind of like set up the story, and consistently set up different parts of the story, and like the pacing was great on that, and I enjoy everything that comes out of Korg's mouth, so it was a good way to do that. And then at the end, oh my gosh, when he says he met some dude named Dwayne The Rock, oh my goodness, that's hilarious. And then the last thing I want to talk about, at least the last thing I have written down to talk about, is the fight scenes. I thought that there were a lot of really good action sequences in the film, and oh my gosh, like the beginning one with the Guardians, they were totally like not doing well in that one, and then Thor comes in and just, you see how powerful Thor is. I honestly love scenes like that, like in Infinity War, especially in like Endgame, the Avengers films, where you see Thor, especially when Thor uses Stormbreaker. I love Stormbreaker, but that beginning fight scene is really awesome. I loved that one. The other ones as well, like the ones with the shadow monsters and the one with all of Zeus's, I mean, they're good, just, you know, classic fight scenes, I feel like. The part when Jane comes in and is using Mjolnir, and the pieces of Mjolnir, like, split apart and come back together, that was cool. That was something I didn't expect. I really enjoyed seeing that new functionality of Mjolnir. The one at the end with the kids, I don't know exactly how to feel about that one. I mean, the kids were great in the film. I'm sure those actors had lots of fun. But I do think it was a little silly and just like, it totally just came out of nowhere that Thor was able to give them all powers of Thor's and they were totally able to just like rip to shreds those shatter monsters. I do think that this is one of the things that I enjoyed more the second time because I knew it was coming and it didn't just seem like it totally came out of nowhere, just so random and kind of, I don't know, crazy. Also, a little bit overpowered. Like, that is crazy how much power Thor was able to give to those kids. I do have a little sidebar about just the kids in this film right now. I didn't write this down, but I just remembered that I wanted to talk about this. I feel like the inclusion of the Asgardian kids in the film made it feel like the film was more for the whole family. And likewise, it was a fun fact to find out about the fact that a lot of the people in the production had like their kids in the film as well, like during that or something else. Like Chris Hemsworth's kids were like young Thor and Love, and a few people, their kids were in that group of Asgardian kids. That was a kind of fun thing too. And so I think in general, I feel like that part of that final fight felt more targeted towards kids because it was kids, which I mean, I don't mind, but it was one of the things that I didn't know completely how to feel about it when I first saw it. Although speaking about the kids, Love. At the end, I really loved that part when you see this interaction between Thor and Love, this like father-daughter relationship, and it's actually Chris Hemsworth and his daughter, so like the interaction there is awesome and I loved it. And then they just go out to fight together too. I really enjoyed the ending of the film. Just in general, I liked it. Anyway, I think that wraps up all my thoughts on the film, at least everything I wrote down and everything I can think of right now. If you have any thoughts or opinions on the film you want to share, comment down below and we can keep the discussion going down in the comments. Of course, thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to like and subscribe, which you can do by clicking right there. Check out more of my videos. Up top is my predictions for Thor 4 video, and underneath that is a playlist of all my movie reviews. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!